done us all a favor and I actually put on makeup today. So no more in the bedroom stuff. Just realized my background's a little off though. Had kids in here and they're bumping it. So I did say that this next one's going to be a little adult. I am keeping the actual book review clean itself. The book, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be as far as adult content. There are things in there that are acts of sex, but it's not like what you would picture. So it's not like an erotica book. It's very brief. It's kind of innocent and it's kind of sweet. I'm really actually excited to talk about this story. Like I was kind of shocked. I didn't know what to expect from this. And I love how the story itself seemed to mimic a lot of the author, and not necessarily her full life, but it is reminiscent of a lot of her younger days. Not the whole story, but the places where she's lived, her protagonist lived. Her first job was the protagonist's first job. So I thought that was really cool how she threaded herself into the story. Now, with the story being set back in, I think it was the 50s and 1960s, I wasn't expecting it to be so empowering for women, and it was so real and raw. So in this book, you are seeing this woman, Julia, and her struggle with not only her culture, but what she wants in life. So she grew up in Egypt, where women are typically married off to older men with money if they have their own money. It's not acceptable for women to want to have a career or to have even an opinion when it comes to their love life, because you didn't choose, somebody chose for you. But Julia doesn't want that. She wants to have a husband that she loves and is passionate about. She wants children on her own terms. She wants a career. She wants all these things that make people in her culture, especially back in the 50s, look at her like she's crazy. So the author is Peggy. I cannot pronounce. Now, I might be saying her last name correct. I tried reaching out to her, but I couldn't get a hold of her. So if I butcher your name, Peggy, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. I loved your book. It was refreshing. Peggy, either Hinaekian or Hinaekian. Peggy, I don't know. We're going to call you Peggy H. I really love your book, though, and I wish I knew how to say your name. I do love how she explains these places that she's lived in that I knew nothing about. So she'd lived in Cairo, that's where she's from, Switzerland, like it's Geneva, New York, California. She, in fact, resides in California. So, like I said, she uses all of these places that she's actually lived, which she's well traveled. Go you, Peggy. Like, seriously, your life was pretty awesome. Not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous with the places that you've seen and you've been. And the way you described everything was just beautiful. Okay, but this isn't like a typical romance novel. It's not your meet cute, conflict, something holds him back, and then voila, it's love. I mean, there is a meet cute, but it's not in the beginning like a typical romance. And it's not working their way up all the way. There's so many levels and so many layers in this book. But you watch this young woman who is struggling with her identity of who she is. She knows what she wants, but nothing that she finds and has in her life works out the way that she wants it. So her standards are so high that she always gets in these situations where she's just not happy. Nothing pans out. She thinks it's going to. She thinks it's going to be perfect. But then, long and behold, something happens. So you're watching her in her sexual awakening. You're watching her navigate these water with tons of different types of men. So it's so honest. It's not this young, naive girl. It is this powerful woman that knows what she wants, and she's going to take it. And if she decides she don't like it, she's going to walk away from it. She was going to make sure 100% that she was going to get her happily ever after. She didn't care what it had to take to do it. And this is the kind of stories that I want my daughters to read and grow up reading when they get older. It's not some princess Cinderella Hallmarky kind of story where no matter what, the girl gets the prince and he's rich and la la la. I mean, come on now. It's not realistic. Now, granted, I'm guilty of liking some of that stuff too. Now, maybe not Hallmark. Sorry, Hallmark. I doubt anybody will see this in Hallmark, but I'm just not a fan. It's a little too corny for me, a little too predictable. But I still do like my romance novels where you're watching the couple struggle, falling in and out of love. It's a guilty pleasure for most women, I think. But I do like honesty every now and then, and that's what you're getting from Peggy's book. Now, I did only do a short portion of the first chapter because the chapters are rather lengthy. And I just wanted you to get a snippet of it so that way you want to go on and read it. Oh, one of the coolest things, I don't know why, I almost failed to mention this. Okay, so the author Peggy is also an artist. In fact, that's what she does in California. Good talk. That's what she does in California. She's an artist. So in this book, all of the chapters, when you go into new chapters, they are actual drawings and sketches that the artist has done herself. They're see, I'm not an art major, so I'm trying to think of like how you would phrase this. Oh no, not Picasso, not Van Gogh. I don't know. Just you're gonna see the cover art, and the rest of the pictures are like the cover art, except for you're not seeing them in color. So there's the difference. Abstract. That was the word. They're kind of abstract. I could be wrong too, but I'm pretty sure it's the word I'm looking for. I'm going to read a little about the author. Usually I don't do this, I just tell you, but there's a lot about her, and I think it's important that you get all the details because she's very intriguing. Granted, like, I've liked all the authors that I've got to read their works and I've got to chat with. But I've never met anybody that has so much under her belt. Like, she has lived a full and great life. Like, I can imagine all of the stories that this woman has got in her head with all the things that she's probably seen and dealt with. I'm in awe of her. So, Peggy H. Sorry again, Peggy. She is Swiss American of Armenian origin. We're going to find that Katie doesn't know big words. So Peggy was born and raised in Egypt. That's cool enough. Like, she could have stopped there and I'd been like, yeah, she's awesome. So she was born in Egypt. Her paternal grandfather owned the largest private library in Egypt, and Peggy was introduced to books in 3 languages: English, French, and Armenian. Which tells you right there, she's at least trilingual. Even cooler. So at a very young age is when she started reading those books. So yeah, she's trilingual. She grew up in a very cosmopolitan environment and was an avid reader. So she kept a journal since the age of 12. Was editor of the high school newspaper and wrote short stories. She immigrated to Canada with her first husband, then on to the United States, where she pursued a career in fashion design and fine arts. Hint, some of this might fall into this book. Okay. After her divorce, she moved to Geneva, Switzerland. She worked at one of the specialized agencies of the United Nations and furthered her artistic career. She met her second husband in Rome. What? Rome! And they lived in Geneva, where they raised two sons. Geneva, is that the Princess Diaries place? Was that Geneva? Or was it something that sounded like Geneva? I'm going to have to look at Princess Diaries. I know. After their children went to college in the United States, they also moved there and now divide their time between California and Florida. That is quite a bit of difference there. California is like way west. Florida like way south east. That's one hell of a trip. I really hope that they have really good frequent flyer mile cards that are getting them back and forth. Long commute. I think that's why I've never been to California. I'm in Kentucky, and I think I mapped that if we drove there, it would be like 3 days. And I'm just honestly, I'm not an airplane person. I don't like heights. I'm 4'10". God kind of knew what he was doing when he created my height. Planes, they just go really high, and then they like shake and turbulence, and I don't even ride rides. Okay, there, I said it. I'm a wimp. I'm such a wimp. But I'm guessing Peggy probably takes an airplane. She's probably like a normal person who travels in the 21st century. But that's enough about that. Parallel to her art, Peggy wrote essays and short stories all the time. She published her first novel entitled Of Julia and Men in 2015. It was included in the New York Times Book Review magazine and under Discover New Titles, Great Stories, Unique Perspectives. The novel is entirely fictional except for the international settings. The illustration on the cover and the 26 images inside in front of each chapter are her own artwork. Like I already said. She has just completed a manuscript of her memoir, The Girl from Cairo, and is seeking a publisher. She has published several short stories in the anthologies of the San Diego Writers and Editors Group for the past 4 years. She also won 3rd place in a contest for a 5,000-word memoir in 2020. Professional review boards like Kirkus, Blue Ink, Clarion, Ford wrote excellent reviews about her novel. Great reviews are also posted on Amazon.com by her readers. I plan to post my review because you all already know how I feel about those reviews. I read that. Peggy H. is an internationally recognized, well-established artist living and working in the United States and in Switzerland. Now, I guarantee that she's internationally established because she's probably got network connections like everywhere. The woman has like lived everywhere. Peggy, pack me up. Put me in a suitcase. Take me with you. Lord, like I want to be where you've been. You're living my travel dreams. Come rescue me from Kentucky. Rescue me. Is a little bit of the beginning of the book. I hope you enjoy it. Of Julia and Men by Peggy Hinaekian. Chapter 1. Julia. Julia did not think she was an ordinary person, and she was not interested in having an ordinary life. Ever since she was a child, she had daydreamed. She daydreamed of an exciting future, of an extraordinary future life. It would be a life full of love, passion, and a fabulous career. Her goals were twofold. One was to have an exciting career, and the other was to share her life with an interesting, passionate man and have children. She yearned for a romantic fairy tale life. This was going to be very difficult to attain in the Egypt of the 1950s. She was only 15 years old, but she had great plans, if she could only get out of Egypt. Come and help me in the kitchen, instead of just sitting there and reading all day long. hollered her mother from across the hallway of the kitchen. Julia was deep in her thoughts. Her mind was elsewhere, and she did not want to budge. She did not like household duties of any kind. The apartment where they lived in the heart of Cairo was very large. Actually, the apartment comprised of 2 separate units joined together to make one big apartment. Her parents owned the building and they occupied the entire 2nd floor. Julia often secluded herself in one of the rooms far away from the kitchen and read. Their library was stacked with books in English and in French. She mostly read romance novels in these 2 languages and daydreamed. She imagined herself being the heroine in each story. "Come now, get moving," called her mother again. "Coming!" Julia shouted back and reluctantly got up from her favorite leather armchair in the formal dining room of their house to join her mother in the kitchen. Their kitchen was old-fashioned by today's standards. It was not a welcoming place. It was dark and bleak and had only one small window perched on top of the large old-fashioned sink, and it overlooked a narrow passageway between the building next door. Conversations could be overheard from the kitchen across the passage. Her mother did not seem to mind the bleakness, but Julia hated it. In fact, she hated all kinds of housework: cleaning, cooking, washing dishes, washing clothes, or whatever. Not that she did much of that with a young female servant roaming around the house all day helping her mother. They were not wealthy, by all means, but servants came rather cheap in Egypt. Only the very poor could not afford them. Her mother was an excellent cook and was in charge of the cooking, and wanted Julia and her younger sister to take an interest in it. Her sister somewhat did. She was more of a homebody. Her older brother was excluded from that task. The rule in the Middle East at that time, not that it has changed since, was that men worked outside the home and women inside. Julia had been against the rule as far back as she could remember. Why should men have the excitement of the outside world, and women be relegated to the house duties, she often wondered. How are you going to keep house and cook for her husband and family if you don't learn? Her mother kept asking her. There was no possible answer to that question. Julia's mind was far away from mundane chores. She was in an imaginary world of her own. First of all, she thought she was too young to think that far ahead. Secondly, she intended to make oodles of money by working outside the home, and also marry many. Therefore, the housework would be taken care of by the hired help. Thirdly, she had decided she was not going to remain in Egypt. She had plans to somehow go to the States. That's where things were happening in the books she read and the movies she saw. Julia was born in Cairo of mixed ethnicity. Her mother was Greek, born in Egypt, and her father was Lebanese, whose family had come from a remote village in Lebanon to build a better life in Egypt. Her mother's family was in textiles and her father's in tobacco. Julia had grown up in an unconventional family environment. Both her parents had been surprisingly liberal, unlike those of ethnic minorities in the Middle East. She grew up reading American magazines and watching American and European movies. There was no movie rating in Egypt, and she and her siblings often went to the movies with their parents and watched all sorts of films about romance and crime. Lovemaking was not that explicit then, nor was crime so bloody. Her big dream of a fairy tale life had been kindled at a young age by watching these films. Her quest was to leave Egypt, go to the U.S., and have a glamorous life with a flourishing career as a fashion designer in New York, marry an intelligent, handsome, passionate, wealthy, and out of the ordinary man, have super intelligent children, and lead an extraordinary life of love, passion, and everything else. She knew she was demanding a lot, but she had made up her mind to pursue and achieve these goals one way or the other. I am not going to stay here, get married, have children, and be a housewife, she told her mother many times. I am going to the States. I want to have a career in fashion design. And how are you going to do that? There is no way to get out of Egypt. You know that. You need an exit visa for a specific reason. You cannot go as a tourist. You can't go to college in the U.S. We don't have the money. Your life is here, my dear. I really hope that you enjoyed the portion that I read to you, and That little snippet just kind of gave you an idea of who Julia is. She does evolve throughout the story because right then and there you're looking at the thoughts of a younger Julia and what she started off thinking she wanted in life. And it is very much a forbidden kind of love story. The the things that aren't accepted. It really is lovely, and I think that you're going to enjoy Julia's adventure. You might get frustrated with how picky she can get and be like, dang it, girl, really? What now? Like, ah, that guy sounded perfect. Like, ah. No, but let's get real. How many frogs did we all have to kiss before we got to Prince Charming? Prince Charming. How many of you are still kissing frogs trying to find Prince Charming? Exactly. Like, I get there are some people that married their high school sweetheart, but that's not typical. So this story is just real. I love it. So enjoy. Of course, I'm going to have the Amazon link right below. Go to it, buy it, read it, love it, share it with your friends. And then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, have other people subscribe to the channel. Especially if you're an author, make sure people subscribe because you want people to see the review to your book. It's important. These reviews are pointless if people aren't watching them, you know?